Welcome back to the Human Code Key. I'm Ken Bahn, and today we're going to talk about discernment. Discernment is being able to tell the difference between two things. Sometimes these things are very similar. Sometimes these things are kind of different. But you have to be able to discern in order to navigate through today's world. Our world is getting increasingly complicated, and there are many scams out there. And if you can tell the real good things from the scams, you're going to do better in life. And the scams have gotten very clever. Sometimes charities have become scams. Donate to this, donate to that. It's really just a scammer. And they found a way. Somebody died in a foreign country and they're trying to bring back a body and it's $30,000 for the funeral. Please give, because it's a sad story. And people just donate because they're like, oh God, it's a scam. So you have to have discernment. Many charities are overblown with people running the foundation. Blah, blah, blah. Why don't you just take the money and give it to somebody poor? The charity has to make money. It's a lot of it to me. Some charities are real, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are scams. How can you discern? Discernment. Sometimes you watch a video on YouTube and it's a complete crock on how to change something or fix something or do something. But maybe the person who made the video, they didn't know what they were doing, so they were teaching it wrong. Well, you have to have discernment so you can tell the good video from the bad video. You can't just believe every video. The nature of advertising is like that. They show you what's going on and then you buy it. Does it really work? Well, you have to have discernment. So oftentimes in today's society, you experience a total flat-out lie. And if you don't know how to discern between the lie and the truth, and you just believe everything, well, you're going to have a overload because you can't believe everything. You have to believe certain things. And then they all have to connect in order for you to make sense of it. But if you just are picking random things to believe in with no foundation, you're not going to be able to discern and have that discernment. And you're going to get manipulated very easily by media, advertising, and maybe even your friends and family or coworkers, because you don't know how to discern. Sometimes people will say, oh yeah, I want to help you, but really they want to harm you. You have to be able to discern the good people from the bad people. Sometimes people that really love you tell you you should do this, like your parents. Hopefully your parents loved you, and maybe they told you to go get a job that you didn't want to do. And you had some discernment and you said, no, I'm going to do this because this is what I really want to do. Maybe you did not have discernment and you did whatever they told you to do and you're happy. You're the rare exception. That makes me happy if you are. But if you did what they told you to do and you are unhappy, you lacked the discernment to separate the truth from the lie. And it's okay, you can always change it. It's never too late. The only time it's too late is if you're dead, and if you're listening to this, congratulations, you're not dead. Carpe diem. Carpe diem, seize the day. These days you can seize the night if you're a night owl. So discernment is very, very important. I had an interesting experience with discernment, and I think it's kind of obscure and out of left field, but it's a good metaphor, and I think that it has some value. And if you can find the metaphor in it, it's relatable to a lot of situations. But I'm a car person. I love cars, and I have a BMW car, which is very easy to work on. In fact, a mechanic told me that. He said he worked on Porsches, Mercedes, and BMWs, and he said, oh, BMWs, those are the easiest cars to work on. I said, really? He said, oh, yeah, whenever you change something, you could tell, oh, they made it super easy to do this. And I heard that when I was maybe 16 or 17, and I thought, wow, I do my own oil changes, so that's good to hear. It's a reason to, keep buying BMWs. They're easy to work on. Who knew? A lot of these foreign cars, they're completely hard to work on. BMWs, a lot of mechanics would agree they're the easiest car to work on. So one day I decide to change the spark plugs in my BMW. And I'd never done it before. And the thing was you used to go get a manual on your car. But with YouTube, now you can just watch a video and somebody else will show you. So I watched a video on how to change spark plugs. I watched 2. And as I was doing what one of the videos was doing, I realized I didn't have a tool to take something out of the engine to change it. And this is, I've been working on cars, specifically BMWs, since I was 15 and a half. In fact, there was an old one that my father had, and it was going to the junkyard. And he told me at age 15, I was 15 and a half, he said, if you fix it, you can have it. And I had never used any tools before, never used a ratchet. But when you're 15 and I just thought, wow, my friend Matt, who's good with cars, he could fix this thing. Him and his dad. I was like, man, I got to be able to fix this. I could get a car when I'm 16. And just a few months earlier, I had called places for my father, junkyards, on how much they would give us. It was like $150 to $300 for this broken down car. That's how much the junkyards pay. Anyways, but the next day after school, I got some tools out, and I took the whole transmission lever out of the console of the car, took the whole console apart, pried up the carpet, took out the bolts, used a ratchet for the first time in my life. I took it all apart, jacked up the car, got underneath of it, disconnected it. And I had it on the kitchen counter when my parents came home. My dad's like, what's wrong with it? I was like, I think it's some washers and bushings. And ended up fixing it for $13.96. My dad got the bushings and washers, from the parts counter. Anyways, so I'm familiar with these cars, but recently I decided to change the spark plugs in a newer one, and I'd never done it before. And I watched the YouTube video, and I realized I didn't have the tool, but it was after I took the whole engine apart. And this is at a time, it was a few years ago, I only had one car, so I couldn't drive my car because I'd just taken apart the engine. And actually, it wasn't the spark plugs. I think it was the valve cover gasket. No, it was the spark plugs. Anyways, I've changed the valve cover gasket as well. So I'm changing the spark plugs, and I realize that I don't have a tool. So I start walking. I live in the city, so I could actually walk to the auto parts store. I could have called a friend, and I think I might have called a few friends, but they're, I need to do it quick and then be done with it, and it'd probably take me like 15 minutes to walk there. So I was like, I'm just going to walk. I could take a Uber too, but I'm a big car guy. I always drive. And if you have to walk, anyone who works on cars, if you have to walk to the parts store to get the part to change your car, there's some kind of honor in it where you want to walk. I have to admit, there's a huge part of me that just like, I'm going to fix this car. I messed up. I should have gotten this little tool, like some kind of like ratchet adapter, something socket that I needed. I should have gotten it first. Didn't do it. I'm just going to walk there. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to come home and I'm going to finish it, because you're determined, and there's an honor in it. And I knew the walk was like maybe 15 minutes. So as I'm walking, I started thinking, that doesn't make any sense to take out all that other stuff. And you know what? I've been working on BMWs for so long. They would never make it that complicated. It's usually super easy to do things. And by the time even before I got to the parts store, it was an AutoZone. Before I even got there, I knew I didn't even need to buy it. And the video that I watched is wrong. But I got to the store and I bought it anyway, and I saved the receipt, and I said, you know what? I'm going to return this because I don't even need it. And sure enough, I got back home and I just kind of looked at it like with a fresh view of, hey, let's pretend you never even watched that YouTube video. How would you think it would be done? And sure enough, I could just, with BMWs, if you want to change your spark plugs, it's literally you just pop off this little cover and you unplug the wire from the spark plug, and you take out the spark plug, and then you can just take the coil and you can just pull it out. You don't even need a tool. You can just pull it out with your hands. I can't believe it's that easy. The video I had watched was telling you to like unbolt all this stuff and disconnect all these wires. You didn't even have to. It just popped right out. And I thought, wow, I'm so happy that I had the discernment to do. I didn't really think that. I thought, wow, I'm happy I figured that out without taking all this other extra stuff apart. But it's the discernment. I was able to discern. Not immediately. It took me some time, and I had to go on a walk, which is odd because many people find walking and they go for a walk and they find solutions to their problems. Sleeping. If you sleep on a problem, oftentimes your unconscious mind can get that answer in sleep. So there's more than one way to solve a problem, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time. And if you're trying to solve a problem, you need to know that and have patience that, hey, I might need a little bit more time with this so I can discern what the correct move is mathematically. So I'm going to segue into math because most people don't like math. And I get it. But if you look at math as another language, you can appreciate math. Math is a language because everything around us is a mathematical solution set. There's a math equation behind everything. The way our hand works, the way our feet works, the way our body works, everything's balanced. I mean, if you think about it, humans are pretty tall to be able to just run around and do things without constantly falling over. If you had anything like 5 feet tall or 6 feet tall, that's like roughly how tall everyone is, it falls over a lot. But humans, you see them all day long going around. I mean, every now and then someone falls over, but I mean, we can stand up and run around and do things pretty easily. There's a mathematical equation to all of it. There's a reason why our thumb is the way it is and not some other way. And if you can just, I'm not telling you have to know the equations, but know there's an equation behind it. There's some kind of elegant solution. So why I like math is because it doesn't lie. You know, you can have lies in English, you can have lies in Spanish, you can have lies in Hindi, you can have lies in Russian, you can have lies in Czechoslovakian, you can have lies in all kinds of languages. There can be lies. But in math, it's easy to spot the lie. 1 + 1 = 2. There's not a lot of argument with that. And that is why you should appreciate math, because it doesn't lie. The math doesn't lie. When they're trying to figure out government conspiracies and all this nonsense, how do they figure it out? They follow the money trail. The trail of money exposes the truth. It's because the math doesn't lie. How can you use this in your life? Well, think about everything as a mathematical equation. And I know that doesn't sound very exciting, but hey, just think about it. Whatever you want to do, think about it as math. My favorite example for this is, well, first I'm going to give you a little practical example. During World War II, the British planes were being shot down, and they couldn't figure out where to put the armor on the plane. So they said, let's get a mathematician and ask him mathematically, where should we put it? So they hired a mathematician. They said, look at these planes. This plane was shot in the wing. This one shot in the fuselage. This one shot in the tail section. Where should we put the armor? We want to put it on one of these areas. Which would be best? And the mathematician, of course, being a mathematician, was like, well, let me think about this. Because a mathematician, the way they work is they are going to come up with different solution sets and try them. And he came back and he said, well, they said, he's like, I have an answer for you. He said, well, where should we put them? On the cockpit, on the wings, on the tail section? He said, no, you shouldn't put them in any of those places. And they said, but those are the places that are getting shot up, and we can see them from the planes that come back. And he said, no, you shouldn't. That's a waste of time to put the armor in those places. And they said, well, where should we put them? He said, you should put the armor over the engine. And they said, well, that doesn't make any sense. None of the planes that made it back had holes in the engine. He said, exactly. And it took them a while, but then they realized, oh, the planes that got shot in the engine, they got shot down. So the planes with the holes in the tail section, the holes in the wings, and the holes in the cockpit, they made it back because they didn't have a hole in their engine. So by allowing to see the world through a mathematical filter, you can oftentimes just like weed out all the crap, because math doesn't lie. And sure enough, putting the armor over the engines, more planes came back because their engines didn't get shot. A plane will still fly with a hole in the wing, a little one. I mean, and these are little like fighter planes, so they don't have fuel in the wings. The modern planes, they have fuel in the wings, so a hole in the wing will not be a good situation with those planes. But we're talking World War II here. But mathematically, it makes more sense to put the armor on the engine than it does on any other part of the plane. Now, how does this help you? Well, it just goes to show you how math can solve problems. But for me, I hear about a new concept and then I'm like, well, it's no good unless I can use it in my life now. You know, talk to me. about how I can use this now. So I really like this idea of math. So I started saying, how can I use math to make my life easier? And one of the things I think we all are challenged with is eating and cooking and maintaining a proper diet for optimal physical fitness. And I found that if I simply eat the right things, I don't have to go to the gym, that I'm naturally okay. I can just work out a little bit at home, and I can go to the gym more for fun than, I have to. Going to the gym for fun, seeing your friends and working out is way more fun than, I got to go to the gym because I look like a slob kind of thing. And I'm not judging anyone. I'm just saying it's easy. It's more fun to go to the gym when you kind of don't have to. It's like when you see someone skinny, you go, I'm going to go to the gym. Fuck you. Who cares? So how can I use this to help me? Well, sometimes I come home and I'm hungry. Or sometimes I'm just at home and I'm hungry and I want to eat something, but I don't feel like making the food. I like to make cheeseburgers and I like to make carne asada burritos. And I'm talking gourmet cheeseburgers and gourmet carne asada burritos. So the work goes into them. And I'm hungry and I don't want to do it. So carne asada burritos take me a little bit longer to make, but I learned to make a cheeseburger in less than 15 minutes. I can actually make 2 cheeseburgers in 9 minutes if I want to, but usually I just take about 15 minutes and I make a super duper cheeseburger. Half-pound burger, fresh bread, smoked Gouda cheese. Awesome. I even put raw broccoli on the burger sometimes. One time I ran out of lettuce and tomato and I just used broccoli and it tasted better. I couldn't believe it. And the burger stayed together, and I made a bunch of broccoli burgers for all my friends, and everyone loves them. So if you want a new burger recipe, there you go. Broccoli burger, smoked Gouda cheese. You can use some kind of barbecue sauce, and I like to use a garlic aioli. And specifically, I use the Carolina Gold sauce from Trader Joe's. It has a little bit of sugar in it, but it's a great sauce. It's a great burger. And the great thing about a cheeseburger is you can switch it up. You can go to like a different kind of sauce and, pepper jack cheese and see different seasoning, and you have a whole different flavor. So I go to gourmet burger places in the city I live in, and I see what they're doing with burgers, and then I come home and I kind of recreate that in my kitchen. So I still get burgers on the outside, but I always take that information. I use it to make burgers on the inside. And we have a burger place in Los Angeles called Stout Burger. And one of my friends, he ate at my house. I was making burgers for everyone. And he said, Stout Burger, I love Stout Burger. He said, who needs Stout Burger when you have Ken Bahn's burger? And I thought, oh, wow, that's the greatest compliment of all. Because those are gourmet burgers. They're like $15 a burger over there. And, but I was inspired by Stout Burger. And the other lesson here that I'm going to teach you, along with discernment, is what one man can do, another man can do. Or what one woman can do, another woman can do. There's a movie called The Edge. I believe that's the right name, with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins. And they find themselves in the middle of the woods and a bear is hunting them. And Anthony Hopkins comes up with this idea on how they can use this Native American technique to survive. And neither one of them have done it before, and they're, this bear is trying to eat them in the woods, but Anthony Hopkins was trying to keep his cool, and Alec Baldwin is losing his cool. And Anthony Hopkins had to keep telling him, listen, the American Indians did this. What one man can do, another man can do. What one man can do, another man can do. What one man can do, another man can do. What one woman can do, another woman can do. What one woman can do, another woman can do. What one woman can do, another woman can do it. Now, he obviously didn't say women or woman in the movie, but I wanted to say it on this recording because we're all humans. And I believe that women are not properly acknowledged in much of today's society. So as much as I can, I like to acknowledge women. I love women. I love my girlfriend. When I have a girlfriend, I try to make her the happiest girlfriend on earth. And I believe she is. And if there weren't women, I would probably be a bum living under a bridge somewhere. I wouldn't care. So that's just part of my personality. But I find that it's very natural, and I enjoy doing things for my partner. And I think if you're a guy and you don't, you need a lot of growing to do. Or if you're a guy and you're openly gay, I think that's fine as well. I use the man-woman relationship often in my metaphors, but if you're openly gay or you're a transgender, that's great. That's great. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but you get to do whatever you want to do, whatever feels good. That's what we all get to do. And if you do whatever you want to do, you're gonna be a contribution to society, and you're gonna live a good life. But what one man can do, another man can do. So when it comes to cooking, if I can go to a restaurant and get it, I can cook it at home myself. I believe that. It's just a matter of commitment. How much do I want to commit to the process? I think burgers are easy. You learn how to cook a piece of meat on a stove. When I make the patties, I wear these little disposable gloves I get from the store because I don't want to touch the meat. No problem with that. You can use a plastic bag. That's something that I had to get over. But I love women, so if I'm making burgers, I don't want my hands to smell like burger if I'm going to be, making love to my woman. So it's all connected in some way. That's another reason I wear gloves when I work on my car, because a girl does not want you to be anywhere near her if you have dirt or any kind of grossness in your hands. In fact, I get manicures. I learned to give myself a manicure. I'll tell you what, if you learn to fix a BMW, pretty much everything in life is pretty easy. It's making a cheeseburger is much easier than changing the spark plugs on a BMW. It baffles my mind how guys can know how to work on a car and not how to please their partner. Why would you not learn everything? But anyways, going back to math, I used to come home and struggle with not cooking food. I had all the stuff to make a gourmet burger, but I just wouldn't do it. And I even made a video and I put it on YouTube, how to make 2 cheeseburgers in less than 15 minutes. And I think in the video, I do it in 9 minutes or something. I do it in less than 10 minutes on the video. Anyways, after I kind of saw this thing on math, and I started to get a greater appreciation of math, I said, okay, how can I use it in my life? And I was like, you know what? Let's say it takes me 15 minutes to make a burger. I have to own that and realize that when I come home, if I'm hungry, I should just immediately start making a burger. Because I know as soon as I start, in less than 15 minutes, I will have a burger already made. And I put the buns in the oven with the cheese and the sauce, and I cook the burger on the stove, and then I drain the grease, and I could grill it, but I don't know. I find burgers are just easier to do in the pan. Even when I had a grill, I would grill them. I think they get a better taste, but it's just such a monumental amount of work because, getting the cheese and the sauce to melt right on the grill, it's always a little bit of trial and error, but in an oven, it's very consistent. So either way, it's almost the same. But now when I come home, after owning that I can really have a cheeseburger in 15 minutes, I've made my kitchen, I've utilized that piece of information. I've made my kitchen so it's very musical, and speakers, there's lots of speakers in my kitchen, and a subwoofer, in fact. So even with my exhaust hood running, I have a speaker right there that's at ear level that's playing music. I don't always turn it on. I have, it's like a auxiliary speaker system that I turn on just when I turn on the exhaust fan. So regularly with the regular stereo, it doesn't always come on. And my kitchen is a lot of fun. And I just put on an upbeat song that's, got a certain number of beats per minute. Again, there's a little bit of math in there. I'm not going to put on some dreary music, but I put on some music. I turn on the fan. And just like a Pavlovian dog, I'm conditioned. I go right into making the burger, and I'm eating within 15 minutes, and it's effortless. It's absolutely effortless. But what took a lot of effort was when I would come home, eat some junk food, feel kind of horrible, then the junk food would wear off, then I'd be super hungry and even more annoyed, and then I would finally start making the food like 45 minutes to an hour later. And then I was late for something else. And it's just math. It's just simple math. Why wasn't I always doing the right thing? It's because as an adult, we get all these stupid thoughts in our head, and we think that, we don't want to do the right thing. But a kid would just, I'm hungry. I want to eat. Let's make a burger. Okay. Let's make a pizza. Okay. They just do it. They don't have this stupid dialogue in their head. And the funny thing is, we were all kids. We were all 5. We were all doing it fine. And somehow we grow up and we turn into a pile of shit. It's because of all the other dumb monkeys around us that are doing it wrong. So doing it right sometimes means going against the status quo. And I think Elon Musk is one of the best examples, and Oprah Winfrey is another great example. Elon Musk invented PayPal. I mean, that is just awesome. He's like, hey, you know what? People need to be able to buy stuff, and they might not have a credit card. So what can I do? How can I make this? He found a problem, and he made a solution for it, and then he brought it to market, and then he sold it for like a bunch of money. He sold it for so much money, he could start an electric car company. That's pretty cool. Then he started a rocket company because no one could make rockets the right way. He's someone that didn't listen to the naysayers around him or the people that said it can't be done. He only believed in his vision. And, sometimes we get visions. They might not even be our vision, but somebody has granted us, or something has granted us this vision. And it's a calling, and it's a test. If you get the vision and then you don't do something, you will lose the vision, and it will be given to somebody else that can be a proper custodian of it and bring it to fruition or bring it to market. But through discernment, you can start to see the web of lies that are all around us. Speaking of which, I want to talk about some simple things. It's hard to get in shape. That's something that people say, and many people will think of that as true. That's a flat out lie. It's hard to get in shape. Everyone was in shape. When you're born, unless you had some kind of serious defect, you were in shape. It's super easy to get in shape because you are born in shape. Most of us. It's hard to be in shape. No, it's easy to be in shape. I'm in shape, and it's very easy for me to do just about everything. It's easy for me to get out of bed. It's easy for me to put on my socks. It's easy for me to put on a bathing suit. If I'm being intimate with somebody, it's very easy for me to take off my clothes and just be there and let them look at me. In fact, I love that because usually I hear good things. It's easy to be in that situation. It's harder to be overweight and to be ashamed of your body and to go around your whole world like that. It's much harder. People say, oh, it's hard to make money. No, it's not. It's easy. You go get a job or you do something, you invest, you come up with an idea, you implement that, you start a YouTube channel. You know, we live in a world where people are making money all kinds of different ways now. If you think of a new way to make money, it'll probably work. I will say this about money. It's very important to make your money with integrity, that you're not ripping off other people. And you're doing something that you can talk about. If you have a job where you can't talk about it, chances are you're not really helping the situation. You're perpetuating a lie, perhaps. Or if you work at a company and you think the product that your company sells is a ripoff, you're probably going to have some problems. Because it's a conflict. And unfortunately, many people do whatever they can for money. And they usually develop some kind of illness or health problem because they can't live with it themselves and they don't even know it. How many successful people have you seen get cancer or ulcers or whatever else? It's all brought upon stress. You know, I worked for a company, and once I fully understand how the company was making money, I was like, this company is not good. I quit that company. And I felt better because I knew I wasn't contributing to the ripoff. That's why I'm so passionate about cars, because I think a lot of car companies rip you off. Going back to the company that I often talk about is BMW. And unfortunately, BMW has a douchebag reputation. A lot of douchebags buy BMWs and they drive them like douchebags. It's horrible. I have to work against it my entire life since I was 16. The truth about BMW is, if you're into performance driving, they have a maneuver called drifting, where you kind of drift the car through a turn or you skid it around a corner. Skid and a drift is almost the same thing. But it's done by, the scientific term is power oversteer. But there's a Guinness Book World Record champion for the car that can do the world's longest drift. And BMW is the winner for like the last 10 years. It's not a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Porsche or a Koenigsegg or a Pagani or a Bugatti. It's a BMW, and it's their 5 Series sedan. Their 4-door sedan is the Guinness Book World Record champion of drifting. I had a 5 Series sedan, and I learned to drift on it. And today I'm a drifter. I do stunt driving in the movie business. And I always thought, wow, I'm just the greatest driver on earth. But mathematically, there's a very high correlation to people that have a 5 Series BMW and learning to drift. It's the Guinness Book World Record champion of drifting. And who knows? It's a 5 Series sedan. So to me, that's probably the best example of why BMW is the ultimate driving machine. But it teaches you how to drift. So you can get a BMW 5 Series and then get a Ferrari and you'll know how to drive it. That's a anomaly in the car industry, because most cars, when you drift them, they break, they fall apart, they don't like it. With BMWs, they like it. And the designers have put that into their car, and they even use it in their marketing for their car. And I just say that because that's math. There's actually a mathematical reason why I'm a stunt driver today. It's not just passion. In fact, some people, their whole life, they're like, I want to be a stunt driver, and they strive to be a stunt driver. For me, I'm a film and television actor, and I happened to be on a movie set where somebody was trying to do something in a car, and they kept wrecking the cars. They had 4 picture cars, and within less than an hour, everyone on set saw 3 of them smashed because the driver could not do the maneuver correctly. And it happens all the time in film and TV. That's why they had 4 picture cars. I was not the stunt driver on the set, but I went up to the director. I just had this emotional response to seeing these cars get smashed up. I didn't like it. It upset me. And I told the producer, I said, I can do that if you want, and I won't wreck the car. I'll do it perfectly. That producer spoke to the director. That director spoke to me. And after a little while, they said no. But then short while later, someone came and got me, and they said they want you to do it. And I did it. I did it about 16 times. And that started my stunt driving career. But I was able to do it because I grew up with a car that mathematically is the Guinness Book World Record champion of drifting. And because I could learn to drift on that car, it kind of taught me how to do everything else. I was at and if you don't take my word for it, I was at the self-service car wash. In California, we like to take our cars to the self-service car wash. I don't know why. There's some kind of camaraderie with that. And because you have to put quarters into it or money into it, it's fast. I don't know. Especially if you make YouTube videos. It's kind of the culture. But I went to the self-service car wash, and there was somebody else with a BMW M3. And I actually thought it was a girl because he had really long hair down to his back. So I like to talk to women. So I just went up and I was like, do you ever drift it? And then the guy turned around. I was like, oh, this is a guy. It doesn't matter. I would have asked him the same question. Do you drift it? And he said the best answer. He said, I think you kind of have to. Meaning the car is telling you what to do. I know I'm a little bit off topic, but some people get a car and they're completely scared of driving, and they hate driving and they're terrified of it. And then some people get a car and they love to drive and they become really good drivers and they just are great at it. It's not just random, it's math. Chris Harris is a world-renowned drifter. He had a BMW 5 Series. I know many people that have one of the worst cars I think ever made is a Chevy Cavalier. If you have a Chevy Cavalier and you drive that, it is such a poorly designed car, it just causes stress. If you can drive a Chevy Cavalier, you're actually a pretty good driver, I think, because that car is so horribly designed. I've driven it. 2 of my girlfriends have had Chevy Cavaliers. I'm not proud of that, but that's where I drove them. And I was like, this car is terrible. I was like, so worried about my girlfriend when I found out how bad her car drove. I was like, how do you even, people ask me, how do you drive across the country, Ken? DC to LA by yourself in 2.5 days? How did you do that? Like, I drove a BMW, man. It's awesome. It's just like it almost does it for you. The new ones, now when you're driving for a while, I was driving cross country with it, a little coffee cup came up on the display. I mean, it took up the whole display as like this kind of fancy animation. And it's like, hey, you've been driving for a while. How about stopping for a cup of coffee or some refreshments? And I love that because it's kind of like my car is Knight Rider, and it's talking to me. And this one that showed me was a 2015, and I had a 2014, and it showed it. So I mean, it's been in there for a while, but even people who have them, they don't drive them for 3,000 miles and see what they do, and that's a lot of fun. So discernment is good to have, and most people don't have this. They can't tell, the difference between, the truth and fugazi. But if you can learn discernment, it's going to be quite powerful. And you can, what one person can do, another person can do. In fact, they've done it in a way to show you how you can do it. But I want to leave, lastly, since we kind of been talking about cars, I'm going to wrap this up and talking about discernment. I'm going to talk about 3 car companies that made fake car companies just so they could make more money. And it's Toyota, Honda, and Nissan. So back in the 80s, Toyota wanted to sell cars that were as expensive as BMW and Mercedes. Nissan and Honda wanted to do it too. So Toyota, they started the secret project called the Lexus Project, and it stood for Luxury Export US. Luxury Export US. It was called the Lexus Project, and they made a car called the LS400. And they sold it, and it did very well. And today, several years later, Lexus is a very well-respected brand. But really, it's just a Toyota, and it's made from Toyota parts. Now, there was a brief period in my life where I had a Lexus vehicle, and I found a very good mechanic to work on it. And he asked me, "Do you want me to change your oil?" And I said, "No, I changed it myself." And I was proud of that. I've always been changing my own oil because I do a better job than the dealership. Incidentally, if you do work on your cars and you want to change your oil better than anyone else, jack it up, undo the oil filter, undo the drain plug, and then let it drain. And then after it kind of drains for an hour, jack up the opposite end of wherever the drain plug is, like catty corner from that, and let the car drain oil overnight. And just put a note on the steering wheel. Don't start it because there's no oil in the engine. Leave the hood up, leave it so you won't forget that you're working on your car. And then come back the next day and put the drain plug in and put the oil in, and it'll blow your mind how clean your oil is because the whole night it'll drain. I did that the first time I took my car to my mechanic, and he got mad at me. He accused me of getting a new engine, and he was like offended that I didn't let him put the new engine in. And I thought the guy was nuts. I said, "What are you talking about, new engine? It's totally old and dirty." And he said, "Who changed your oil?" And I said, "I did." And he said, "How did you do it?" I said, "I let it drain overnight." And he was stupefied, completely dumbfounded. And I can't believe that I'm the only guy that thought of that. But I'm a genius, and I do what the right thing to do is. You go to a lot of these places for oil changes. Hey, we'll do it in 15 minutes. That's the dumbest oil change ever. The longer you let it drain, you get the more of the bad oil out and put the good oil in. So my cars always have oil, and it looks like the engine is brand new. but that's because I'm not getting paid by the hour. Now I have more than one car, so I can let it drain as long as I want. But even when I did, I would at least go get a sandwich, and just take my time. But overnight is a great way to change your oil. And so far, I'm the only person that I know that does it that way. I don't have a lot of friends that work on cars, and I haven't really spread that message, but I'm doing it now. Anyways, going back to these cars. So I bought a Lexus car, and I took it to this Lexus super mechanic. He'd worked at the dealership for 10 years, maxed out their pay plan, opened up his own independent Lexus repair facility. And he says, "Do you want me to change the oil?" I said, "No, I do it myself. And I feel good about it because I let it drain overnight. And I know he's not going to do that because he's running a shop." And he said, "Where do you get your oil filter?" I said, "I get it from the Lexus dealership." Again, doing the right thing, but I didn't really have discernment about what he was about to tell me. So I felt very good I was buying that oil filter from Lexus. And he said, "Oh, no, Kenny." Some people call me Kenny. I usually go by Ken, but he always called me Kenny. I let him. He fixed my car. Fantastic. Call me Kevin. I don't care. So he called me. He said, "No, Kenny." He's like, "Go to the Toyota dealership. Tell him you have a 2006 Toyota Tundra with the V8, and they'll sell you the same oil filter for $5. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I was like, hey, learn something new. So when I buy oil filters from the dealership, I usually buy at least 2. So I went home and I had an old oil filter that I got from Toyota, and it actually, or from Lexus. And back then it actually came in a Toyota box. And I knew Lexus was made by Toyota. I knew that, but it was fancy. And I had the coupe, the 2-door, which is cool. Not the 4-door, the 2-door coupe. And those are those are the cooler of the Lexus line. Anyways, so I went to the Toyota dealership and I said, "I have a 2006 Toyota Tundra," and the guy gave me the oil filter, and I bought it, and I had the new one. I had the one that I got from the Lexus dealership in the car, and I compared them. It was the same exact box, the same part number, the same everything, and I was like, "Wow, I can't believe I was paying over $20 for the same thing." It was $4.63 from the Toyota dealership. So it's about 1/4 of the price. So I learned something new. I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." And I imagine Nissan created a car company called Infiniti, and Honda made a car company called Acura, but they're basically just, it's just the same thing with a different label, and they charge more money for it. The car is probably of a higher quality and caliber. However, I don't appreciate these companies lying and selling the same things for cheaper. Like, I didn't appreciate once I bought that Toyota oil filter from the Toyota dealership, and I realized it was the same thing that I was paying 4 times as much at a Lexus dealership. I lost respect for those companies because I felt ripped off. I hadn't bought just 1 or 2 oil filters from the Lexus dealership. I probably bought like 10 or 20. And so I felt ripped off. And then I realized, wow, they're not just ripping me off, they're ripping up everyone. So I truly despise these fake Japanese car companies that are just selling overpriced products. And you can, if you buy them and once they've gone through their maintenance period, you have to now go to the Toyota dealership. It's actually not that bad. But what is bad, the second time I went to the Toyota dealership to get the oil filter, I was super excited. I was like, hey, and I told the guy, I said, "I'm putting this in my Lexus." I was like, "This thing's like $20 at the Lexus dealership. It's ridiculous. What a ripoff." And he took the oil filter off of the counter, And he put it back like underneath the counter where I couldn't get it. He's on one side, I'm on the other. And he said, we're not supposed to sell you this if you're putting it in a Lexus. And I just thought, that is absolutely despicable behavior. And I wanted to say a bunch of things, and I said none of it. Instead, I said the one thing or something that would make him just immediately sell it to me. So I said, well, I'm going to put this in my wife's Toyota Tundra. And that was a flat out lie. I'm someone who usually tells the truth, but I just made up a lie. I'm not even married. But I knew if I say I'm going to put it in my wife's Tundra, it would just sound official. And then the guy takes it back and he puts it on the counter. And I paid, $4.63, and I did it. And then every single time I went to the Toyota dealership to get Lexus parts, I would just never mention the fact that I had a Lexus. And if I drove my Lexus there, I wouldn't park it where they could see it. I'd park it over there and then walk to the parts counter. But I realized, I had been ripped off for years and years, and they were ripping me off. And I said, you know what? I'm done with this company. Because they're ripping off everyone. It's a rip-off company. It's a fugazi. That's just how I feel. I'm an automotive enthusiast, and I tried to drift my Lexus. It did it, but it broke pretty quickly, whereas the BMW product seems to like it. So that's a better choice for me. But discernment, now I've been able to discern with more things in the automotive industry, because today many car companies are actually owned by another car company. So if you don't know that, if you don't have that knowledge, you might not be able to discern which is the better product. And if you can't discern, you may get ripped off. So discernment as a consumer will certainly help you choose. The best way to do some research if you're buying anything, this is some real practical advice here, is ask people who have it what they think of it. Every time I'm at a gas station and I see a car that I like, that I would consider purchasing, I always ask the person, hey, how do you like your car? And I'm so surprised that some people are like, oh, I love it, it's great. And then other people are like, oh, I hate it, this car's a complete piece of crap. Don't waste your money. And I love when I hear that, because then I know, man, I'll never get that car. Nobody likes it. The people that bought it, they don't even like it. So I hope you learned something from this, that you can go out and do whatever you want to do. If one person has done it, you can do it, and you can even create something new, something that nobody else has ever thought of. And as you learn and as you experience and you gain new knowledge, utilize discernment and learn to discern between the good choices and the better choices, or the good choices and the bad choices. You might even have to discern with friends and family. Unfortunately, some of your best friends will try to pull you down, just like those monkeys. They think they're doing the right thing, but they're not doing the right thing for you. So you have to discern where you spend your time, who you spend your time with. Sometimes spending time with certain people is a bad choice. Sometimes a better choice is spending your time by yourself, coming up with that new idea that's going to change your life, that might change the whole world, might change many people's lives around you. If you want to do something, if you want to create something and be a contribution to society, which I think we all do. We all want that. Some of us may have gone astray, but it's never too late to get yourself back on course. I'll leave it. This is the last thing I'll wrap up with. Richard Branson, someone who I mentioned in a lot of these as someone who I look up to. One of the things, and again, I've researched these people extensively. So a lot of times when you hear someone in the media, you only get the good part. You don't get the bad part. Richard Branson used to be a little bit of a scam artist. And I say that as nicely as I can because I love Richard Branson. And I would never want to cause his brand any harm. I would only want to support his brand, whether it's Virgin Airlines or whatever else he's up to. But Richard Branson wasn't always the Richard Branson we knew. He was a bit of a scam artist, and he had run some kind of scams to make money. And he ended up going before the courts in his home country. And after going through the court system more than once, one of the judges who had seen him several times, I believe if I'm telling the story correctly, it was a woman judge. She told Richard Branson, she said, if you're in my courtroom one more time, I'm going to kick you out of the country. And basically Richard Branson straightened up his act and he began to fly right. No pun intended with Virgin Airlines. Created Virgin Music Group. Bought an island for himself. He's such a great thing, but in his autobiography, or if you read his history, he may even speak about it and how it was a good little kick in the butt for him to start doing the right thing. Because he's like, hey, I don't want to get banned from my country. That would suck. And he's such a huge success. You would never even imagine that he was in such a predicament. But he was. And that just shows you that even Richard Branson in his early years lacked discernment on the right ways to make money versus the wrong ways. And it took him going to court a few times and a judge to kind of give him an ultimatum for him to finally pick up that mantle of discernment and say, hey, I'm only going to make money with integrity, where I can benefit society and where I can make a lot of people happy and nobody wants to come after me. And it was a huge benefit to him and our society. I believe he's been a good contribution to society. So no matter where you are in your life, you can make a few changes, clean it up, maybe spend some more time by yourself or more time gathering knowledge, or, if there's negative people in your life, go ahead and spend less time with them. And you can do it. I'm telling you, you can do it. I believe in you because I've helped so many people through so many things. I've seen the most amazing transformations. And the great thing is your transformation begins and ends with you. Even if you have no idea how to do it, no idea what you really want to do, you just know you're kind of stuck in a rut, you can just say, hey, I'm going to do it. I'm going to transform into something else. I'm a caterpillar now. I'm going to transform into a butterfly and I'm going to fly. And just by making that choice, making that commitment, it will start happening. And it will happen because it's inevitable. You just have to commit and you have to discern, utilize, have patience, and make it happen. Funny thing is about our dreams, we're the only ones who can actually make them come true. And to imagine what is possible tomorrow, we must be willing to step beyond what is possible today. And it's going to be a great day.